Hi everybody, I am Tracy. Welcome to my channel. Okay, so this video is going to be about DPOs. So I am currently 5.5 weeks pregnant. This is my cycle 2 of trying to conceive. So I'm going to be making quite a few videos about my journey down this path. So let's get started. So I'm starting with one DPO, and I actually have my phone here because it's all recorded in my phone. So I started with one DPO, and I actually recorded all the way up to 22 DPO, which at 21 DPO, that actually put me over 5 weeks pregnant now. But I did record everything. I did write everything down just because I wanted to share it with you. Okay, so let's see here. All right, so this is trying to conceive cycle number 2. I did use several tests. I'm actually making another video to go over all of the different tests that I used and also my recommendations, because there's a lot of tests that I do recommend, especially if you're trying to catch your pregnancy early on. They do make some tests, some very sensitive tests now that pick up 10 MIU in your system. So I'm actually making another video talking about all of the different tests. For this video, I'm just going over the DPO, the symptoms for however many days past ovulation. But the test that I did use, I used the first response, a regular pink line test. I also used the clear blue digital test. For this cycle, I use the Sure Predict one-step pregnancy test. I also use the Clinical Guard pregnancy test. The regular one-step, they're just called one-step pregnancy test, I used a couple of the First Signal pregnancy tests, which those are 88 cents at Walmart. And then I also use the Assured brand, and that's the Dollar Tree, dollar store test. So I use several different tests. I also use several different ovulation tests and brands, and I'm going to make a video on that as well. So for this cycle, I mentioned I used the clear blue test. I also used the ovulation test. So I actually had 6 days of flashing smileys, which with the clear blue ovulation test, they're digital. You get a smiley face. And if it's flashing, that means that you're in your fertile period. You're not at your peak just yet, but you're highly fertile. So I actually had 6 days of flashing smileys, and then I actually finally got my solid smiley, which that stays on for 2 days, and it means you're going to be ovulating within those 2 days. So after that, one DPO. The symptoms that I had, I was bloated, and I apologize if it's too much TMI, but I was bloated, gassy. I had leg muscle spasms and like leg cramping, which is odd at one DPO, but it happened. I had a slight cramping in my abdomen, excuse me, and it could have still been ovulation pain. And I am a vegetarian, and it's interesting because one DPO, I haven't eaten meat in a very long time because I'm a vegetarian, but at one DPO, I randomly just slipped up and I ate a little bit of meat without even thinking twice about it. And so I don't know what came over me. It's really weird for that to happen to me, for me to eat meat and not even realize that I'm eating meat. And so also here I listed flakiness because for the first few days after I ovulated, I was a little flaky, a little out of it, a little spacey, which is quite weird for me, but I was. And then at 2 DPO, bloated again. Now, when I say bloated, I mean bloated. Now, I'm pregnant now, obviously, so I'm bloated now, but I was incredibly bloated right after ovulation. So I was bloated, gassy, slight abdomen cramps, ate a ton of food. I was having cravings. I was hungry a lot, more hungry than usual. And then also I was still taking ovulation tests because I wanted to make sure that I had ovulated, which I had. And then I listed here that the ovulation tests were getting very light. So it confirmed ovulation, which I also temp. So the temping that I did confirmed ovulation as well. 3 DPO, bloated, mild side cramps, and also just more mild symptoms that day. At 3 DPO, I had some mild symptoms. And at 4 DPO, still bloated, mild cramps, especially when laying down. And I also had pressure in my stomach. And that's something that lasted for quite a while. So I had the mild cramps, but you really could feel them when I was laying on my back. I could feel them in my lower stomach. And I also could feel pressure. And, you know, I'd like to just mention, because, you know, I watch a lot of these videos here on YouTube, and I don't hear a lot of women, you know, mention this, and this is just my experience. But at this point, I was about 99% sure that I was pregnant. You just know. And I'm someone who's very in tune with my body. And so obviously I knew when I was ovulating. I'm one of those women that I can feel when I'm ovulating. I just know that it's happening. And then after, you know, the egg is being fertilized and there's other things that are going on. And obviously, you know, you can't feel all of that, but you just know when your body is experiencing some unusual symptoms, things that you just don't normally feel. So at this point, I had a feeling that I was pregnant. So I just wanted to mention that. And that was at 4 DPO. At 5 DPO, this is where I seen an increase. Yes, an increase in how often I was using the bathroom. So frequent urination. I still had slight cramps, slight pressure in my stomach, my lower stomach. And then as far as CM, and I apologize, TMI, as far as CM, I wasn't having really any. And I know that some women list that as a pregnancy symptom, but I really wasn't having any CM at all. And then also gassy. Gassy is just like a common symptom that I experienced throughout, you know, the past few weeks. It's just there every day, if not almost every day. So 6 DPO, bloated still, very slight pressure, gassy. And then I had some cramps, I listed here, some cramps early in the day, but not too much at night, which is interesting because after this here, I experienced more cramps and more pressure at night. And I don't know if that's because I'm calmed down, I'm laying in the bed, I'm getting ready to go to sleep. And so that's when, you know, you're able to notice those things. So that was 6, 7 DPO. I had some intense, I wrote here that it felt like intense gas pains early in the day. And then at night, I had mild cramps in my lower stomach and then also in my back too, my lower back as well. And that's at 7 DPO. So if you know anything about, you know, implantation, they say around 7 DPO is the time that the implantation process starts to begin. For some women, it can be a little bit earlier at like 5 DPO, but 7 DPO is a common time for the implantation phase to begin. And so I had some pretty intense, I describe them as pretty intense gas pains early in that day, throughout the entire day, but they were more intense earlier in the day. And then at night, I had some cramping in my stomach and also my lower back. 8 DPO, I had some very vivid dreams. I had a more sticky, thick CM. I was sleeping a lot more. And then also my abs right at 8 DPO was when this started. My abs were sore to touch. I mean, if you touch my abs, I mean, if anything touched my abs, I could feel it. It felt like I had been doing nothing but stomach crunches constantly, like working out constantly. My abs were killing me. So very tender. My body was very tender. And that was at 8 DPO. 9 DPO, pressure, slight cramps in the morning, very vivid dreams again, slight gas. That's what I wrote here. 10 DPO, my back is hurting now. So my back is hurting. I didn't sleep well that night. I had lower back pain. 11 DPO. Now, 10 DPO I tested and I got a negative. I tested and I got a negative. And 11 DPO is when I tested again and I got my big fat positive. And I'm actually making another video that's going to go over all of that and show my line progression. So if you're interested in that, check that out. But 11 DPO is when I got my first positive pregnancy test. And that was with a Sure Predict. The company is called Sure Predict One Step. They're 10 MIU pregnancy test, and I bought them on Amazon. I believe they were like $25. So they're like the internet cheapy test, but what makes them different is they pick up 10 MIU. So I tested with that test. I also tested with a Clinical Guard pregnancy test, and that's like an internet cheapie as well. And then I also tested with a first response, which the first response says that it can pick up the hormone 6 days sooner. So I tested with those 3 tests, and they all came back positive. The line was faint, but you could definitely see it. It was a positive. So very exciting. I was kind of shocked. Yes, I kind of knew something was going on. I knew that I was pregnant, about 99% sure, but yeah, I was still very shocked because it was only my second cycle trying to conceive. Now at 12 DPO, let's see here. Oh, and I mentioned here for 11 DPO in the mid-afternoon that I had some cramping as well. And that then at 12 DPO, I was nauseous at night with a migraine that just wouldn't go away at 12 DPO. 13 DPO, I had slight pressure again, frequent urination, another migraine at night. And then I wrote barely sleeping still. So I wasn't sleeping very well. And that's because at this time, I was very sore to touch. I had a lot of lower stomach cramping. My back hurt, my lower back hurt, my abs hurt, and there was a lot of pressure. And that was all the implantation that was taking place. It goes on for quite some time. Even once you get your big fat positive, the baby is still, it's still, I guess, how do I describe this? Getting comfortable, wedging its way up in there. So it does continue. I did look this up and read about it. So 14 DPO, I had to wear tights that day and I wasn't happy about it, okay? And so when you're experiencing a lot of pressure and cramping and you know you're pregnant, and so you know that, you know, implantation is taking place, to put on a pair of tights at this time, it wasn't the most comfortable. So I had to wear tights that day. It was very uncomfortable. And then later on when I got home, later on that night when I got home, I had a very, very small, it was about the size of a half a dime, like a half a dime. It was very small. I had a very light spot. It was a brown discharge. So it was blood mixed in with my CM. So it freaked me out, and I wasn't sure if it was because I wore the tights that day, but it freaked me out. So I called my doctor, and they advised me that, I called my doctor the next day, and they advised me that it was completely normal because I did get a positive pregnancy test and it was so early on. This was at 14 DPO, so most likely it was implantation bleeding. But I was confused because I had already had the big fat pregnancy test. And so I'm thinking, you know, the baby started to implant around 7 DPO. That's when I started experiencing all of those cramps and things like that. So I'm thinking, why would the blood be coming out now? But I did read about it, and I guess, you know, it makes sense that it takes some time to come out of you. And, you know, if it's brown, then it's normal. If it's not brown, then you should definitely go to the doctor. And then I thought it was over with. That was 14 DPO, 15 DPO. I thought it was over with. And then later on in that day, in the afternoon at 15 DPO, I actually had another spot, and it was the size of a dime. So it was a little bit more. And so that was over the weekend. So I decided to, on Monday, I went in to my doctor's office and I got the blood work just because I wanted to, you know, make sure that everything was going well. And they checked my levels a couple times that week. So 15 DPO, I had the small spot. And I mentioned that I still had some pressure. I was gassy. 16 DPO, more pressure in my belly, frequent urination, very tired. That's when the fatigue really hit me. Very, very tired all day. No matter how much sleep I had gotten, I was just tired. Like I was waking up tired. And I wrote here, always hungry. 17 DPO, bad migraine early in the day, which is unusual. Very nauseous, frequent urination, and I had some indigestion as well. 18 DPO, I wrote lack of sleep, another migraine, and gassy. 19 DPO, still lacking sleep, sleeping about 4 hours a night, and, you know, knock on wood, thank God it's over with now, but for a few days there, I was literally passing out, falling asleep, sleeping for about 4 hours, and then I was up. I could not go back to bed. I was up. And so I don't know if that's like that pregnancy excitement, but I was sleeping about 4 hours a night. Yeah, so, and that was 19 DPO. 20 DPO, I wrote the same thing here. So still sleeping 4 hours a night, lower back pain, sore breast, extra hungry. 21 DPO, which now puts me over 5 weeks pregnant, hungry all day, and I did have a headache all day that just lasted all day. It wouldn't go away. 22 DPO, I wrote not too many symptoms, sleeping more, sore breast, hungry still all day, and that's what I went up to, is 22 DPO. So lots of symptoms early on. So that's really why I wanted to make this video, because a lot of these other videos that I've seen on here, you know, not everybody has any symptoms, or they have symptoms but they start to experience the symptoms around 14, 15 DPO. And so I started experiencing the symptoms very early on, very, very early on. So I'm only 5.5 weeks. And so I plan on actually recording this journey. So if you're interested in watching me as I go down this beautiful, exciting path, please do subscribe. I plan on posting weekly belly shots and just keeping you updated with my pregnancy and what's going on. So thank you so much for watching. Bye.